Hello. Hello, YouTube land. How are we all doing today? I know a couple people are coming. Hello. So I haven't went live in a while. I've been kind of working and going out with friends and stuff. And then when I do have a spare moment to like film something, I'm usually filming a video. I'm not doing a live. So yeah, today I wanted to chit chat about Makeup Geek because I saw a couple days ago that they were going to be shutting their doors in April of 2022. Hey Sandra, how are you, girl? So this is the nail color that I got. I wanted to do green for St. Patty's Day because I actually do have some plans for St. Patty's Day. My friend Lisa invited me to a bar crawl next weekend, and I'm really, really excited to go. So I wanted to do a green nail color today. So we are going to be talking about Makeup Geek and basically giving you guys a background and reasons why that I think that they were closing their doors. I mean, I'm surprised that Makeup Geek lasted this long. They came around the OG days of YouTube, like makeup and stuff like that. Yeah, I really like this color. I think it's really fun. And basically, they were around when like the makeup OG days were going on, like when people collected a bunch of MAC products and MAC was like the brand to collect. But I'm going to compare Makeup Geek to other brands and why they just couldn't keep up and compete with brands that were coming out that were either more affordable than Makeup Geek or they just couldn't keep up with the current trends and the um products and eyeshadows and etc. that people were interested in, because Makeup Geek honestly was losing a lot of people's interest. I think around a few years back at this point, I myself was a avid Makeup Geek collector of their eyeshadows and of most of their products, but mostly the single shadows. I can't say that I didn't get into single shadows because of Makeup Geek. They were the first single shadows that I collected. I really wasn't into single shadows before they um, came around, because the main um, goal and the main selling point of Makeup Geek was that they were cheaper than MAC singles, and they were, I believe, $5 to $7 a pop. They weren't really always $5 depending on what type of formula, or if it was a shimmer finish as opposed to a matte finish. They always, I think, varied in prices. But if you are going to not keep your um prices at a certain price point, I think, let me just look up what they're actually selling them for now, but I believe in the beginning they were around $5 to $7, and then I don't think she was able to sustain. Oh damn, my connection is wonky. Can you guys still hear me? We got 4 people. Say hello. I'm just gonna pull up the Makeup Geek website right now. I don't know why it does that. Literally every time I go live, it says we are having unstable connections, and then everybody says that they can still hear me. Okay, good. As long as Sandra can hear me. Okay. So their eyeshadows right now are listed at $6.49 to $8.49 a pop. Their foiled shadows are listed at $8.49. Their matte shades are listed at $6.49. So by the time you pick out 5 single eyeshadows from Makeup Geek, and that's just being a matte finish, that's like almost more than $30 for 5 eyeshadows, and then she also had 9 pan palettes to offer, which were, I believe, about $45 per palette. And she just could not sustain those prices because people were not checking for Makeup Geek anymore. They just were not going to pay that expensive price tag for Makeup Geek. They were going to put it towards something that was more mainstream, or they were going to put it towards something that was more affordable. Like, there's so many brands out there, and yes, brands come and go because there is always a factor on why a brand does not have lastability or sustainability like another brand does. But the fact that Makeup Geek lasted longer than Becca Cosmetics or BH Cosmetics, but I'm going to talk about more so Becca Cosmetics because Becca Cosmetics was a giant in the makeup industry for a long time, and they were purchased and accumulated by Estee Lauder. And Estee Lauder bought Becca for like $2 billion at the time. And when they were purchased by Estee Lauder, a lot of people were a little bit hesitant about still supporting Becca and still having those customers come back and purchase from the brand. And I think after they were purchased by Estee Lauder, they kind of took a hit as well, but not as much as them completely shutting their doors, and especially before Makeup Geek closed their doors. Because again, Becca is a prestige brand. They can be found in Sephora and Ulta. A lot more people know about Becca Cosmetics than Makeup Geek Cosmetics. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And basically, with Becca Cosmetics, they could not keep up with the current makeup trends. They also did not really have hero products that had people constantly coming back to repurchase. And that's usually a huge way for a company to survive. And I'm going to use ColourPop as an example, but there's also plenty of other brands that have products that have people keep on coming back and repurchasing them. Makeup Geek did too. They had mascaras available, they had eyeliners available, and those are always the two products that you go through the fastest. I think they also had, no, they did not have brow products. Actually, they do. They have brow duos. But, people were just not checking for it. They just thought, I think people just got bored with Makeup Geek, honestly. But with Becca, they didn't really have any hero products to get people to come back to repurchasing uh products from the brand. Like, they didn't have really mascaras that people were checking for, or eyeliners, or brow products, and those are usually the three products that people are going to go back and repurchase. But Becca just could not compete with Anastasia Beverly Hills, Benefit Cosmetics. They were the two biggest brands in Sephora, and they could not compete with Urban Decay's Naked palettes. Even though people aren't really checking for Urban Decay too much anymore, people are still going to go buy a Naked palette as opposed to a $45 9 pan palette from Makeup Geek. Why would they pay for a Makeup Geek palette that doesn't really have the establishment? Not saying that indie brands aren't as well known as, I mean, they aren't as well known as Sephora brands and Ulta brands. Let's get real. But Makeup Geek also tried to break into that market when they had their Target deal. And once they had that deal with Target, I was like, maybe this is Makeup Geek's saving grace. Maybe they'll be able to reach more of an audience, and maybe this will make them survive longer, because Target is huge. To have a deal with Target, that's amazing to have their products in store. But just people were still not buying their products because there are so many giant affordable makeup brands at Target already, that why are people going to be checking for Makeup Geek? There's Elf, there's Maybelline, there's L'Oreal, there's all these well-known brands. Makeup Revolution, the list goes on and on and on. I don't know why I'm blanking on which other brands are there, but if you can buy something that's way more because Target, let's get real, is for the affordable buyer for anything. You go to Target to save money. I just went to Target today and I go there because their prices are cheaper than most other places. And I'm not going to go to Target and purchase a Makeup Geek I mean, yes, it was nice that we were able to view the products and see what they looked like now before we purchased them, which is also a big thing in the makeup industry is that people want to see the product, swatch the product before they buy the products because they want to know what it looks like and if it's actually worth getting. That's why YouTube is so essential and for indie brands for people to watch reviews on your makeup. And Makeup Geek was also not sending out any PR after a while. She also lost a lot of um not just deals or affiliates or anything like that, but she lost a lot of friendships on YouTube, especially with Jaclyn Hill, Manny Mua, Kathleen Lights. They were not featuring her products anymore. Okay, can people hear me still? Because I'm not getting, I don't know if Sandra's just listening, but um I just want to make sure people can hear me and see me still because it's still saying that on top and that's giving me anxiety that people can't see me. Okay. I'm just texting a couple of people. But I want to get to the swatches before Sandra leaves. So we're probably going to start swatching everything and then I'll talk a little bit more about Makeup Geek's downfall. Okay, I'm just messaging a couple of people. Well, I'm sure you probably never, yeah, I figured you had never purchased from the brand. But I try to announce when I'm live on my stories on Instagram, but I feel like people still don't really see it. So I'm just trying to message a couple of people. Okay, so I messaged a couple of people. Let's see if people can watch. But again, it's really not a big deal. People usually always rewatch my lives. Okay, so I think that there was a lot of factors that came into play for Makeup Geek not being able to survive. Okay, justice is coming, so that's cool. Um, and it was mostly because of Marlena's kind of not like I wouldn't say elitist mentality, but I think because she was such a if you didn't know Makeup Geek, you at least knew who Marlena Stell was, and she was very adamant to be the face of the brand and basically made it sound like she did everything in the for the brand. And I think that was just putting a tremendous amount of pressure on her and also kind of caused her to not be able to keep up business wise and also with like affiliates and sponsored videos and um PR. She just wasn't really promoting her brand. She kind of just fell off. And I understand if you stand behind your hey Justice, if you stand behind your products and you think that your products are good enough to stand the test of time because honestly they weren't really they weren't launching anything. And unlike Anastasia Beverly Hills, which will probably make a huge comeback at some point, or maybe they won't. I don't really know. You can't, as an indie brand, you can't just not release anything and for people to be interested in your brand still. Like Anastasia Beverly Hills stopped releasing products for almost a full year. Hey, Erica. Um, that people were still waiting for them to release something, but they were also oversaturating the market because Anastasia or Makeup Geek Justice. Yeah, they were still around for the entirety of COVID, which I'm really surprised that they didn't close their doors before. Or at least when COVID first started. I know that they were probably just trying to survive, and Marlena was probably trying to just get people interested in her brand still. But when that rebrand happened, the that never took off, and the rebrand was just not even anything that people were interested in anymore because she was talking up this rebrand so much. She was saying, yeah, there's like this whole matrix system and this whole thing, which I didn't really understand the matrix system and what it really was. But basically, she was talking about there was going to be new packaging, there was going to be bronzers, there was going to be highlighters, there was going to be blushes, there was going to be a whole bunch of products. And then all she had released was square pan matte eyeshadows, and there was like a neutral bundle, and then there was like a pigment bundle with like pigmented colorful shades. And I barely saw anybody talk about it, and I didn't really see that many people receive PR on it. I think a handful of people did, but not enough to get the word out there to get people interested. And also, there were a bunch of matte shades. They weren't really super unique finishes that people honestly were really going to buy. Um, and the reason why I got inspired to do this live and to um talk about it is because I cannot say I didn't fall in love with collecting makeup because of Makeup Geek. They were one of the first brands that I really collected. Um and I started to also build up my MAC single eyeshadow palette collection, but it was mostly Makeup Geek, and I thought their formula was great, but they just could not sustain that price point because of ColourPop and Morphe and other affordable brands coming out. ColourPop was a giant. When they came out, they were releasing the Super Shock shadows and the lippy sticks, but the Super Shock shadows were something different that no one had really seen before. And Makeup Geek was still offering powder single eyeshadows, which you could basically get from any brand at this point. But she couldn't really sustain that price point anymore because ColourPop was coming out with single Super Shock shadows for $5 and the same thing for the lippy sticks. And they sustained that $5 price point for their products for a really long time. They also launched a few lip products like the Ultra Matte Lip. Then they released their own single eyeshadows and they were $5 a pop. No matter what finish it was still all $5. So you could get 5 single shadows for $30, but then if you wanted to get like 10, I think they sold it in bundles where I believe it was like $45, which is still more affordable than Makeup Geek. Makeup Geek wasn't really enticing people and sucking people in and getting people to be interested in their brand and their products because they weren't really offering anything too great. And also, Makeup Geek could not compete with Morphe, and I can't talk about Makeup Geek without talking about Morphe, even though I hate Morphe myself. They were a giant. They were selling 30 pan eyeshadow palettes for like $20. Are people going to go for a $45 Makeup Geek eyeshadow palette with 9 pans or with only 9 pans, or are they going to go for a 30 pan Morphe palette that's $20? That's a really big price difference, and you get twice the amount of product. The quality might not be as good, but people are going to go for something that's more affordable and has more options. That's just what the truth is of it. She did do palettes, but her palettes were just too expensive and people were just not interested in it anymore. So let's jump into some of the swatches of some of my eyeshadows, because I don't just have the matte single shadows and her shimmer shadows. I also have the entirety of her foiled eyeshadows and the entirety of her duochrome shades, because that's what I said. I collected her palettes and I collected her eyeshadows. This Z palette, oh my god, of course I'm like smearing my lipstick. This Z palette is full of Makeup Geek shadows. These are just Makeup Geek. And these are her foiled finishes up until here. And then this whole row and this whole row is her duochrome shades. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14, 20, 35 shadows. And then in this one, I have, this is upside down. This is an array of eyeshadows, but there's, Makeup Geek is the first 3 rows. This row, and this row, and then starting from here to here, like this shade, and then this whole row here is MAC, and then the bottom row is all Anastasia Beverly Hills. So I think this one might be ColourPop, because I did use up, no, that's Makeup Geek actually. I think most of these, some of these are ColourPop. I think 2 of these are. Yeah. But the rest of them are mostly Makeup Geek. Okay, those 3 are all ColourPop, and this one is ColourPop. So let's take out the ColourPop ones really quick. I have pan in all 3 of them. And then this one is ColourPop as well. But the rest of these are all Makeup Geek, and then I think that one is also ColourPop. And so is that one. Whoops, let's not have the magnets fall out. All right, so this is all Makeup Geek here. And then I also have a couple of Makeup Geek in my everyday little single palette that I use pretty much every single day. And I think this one was Vanilla Bean. No, this one was Vanilla Bean. No, these are both ColourPop. Never mind. This one is Makeup Geek. This is Peach Smoothie. And then I think this is ColourPop. Yeah, that's ColourPop. And these are both Makeup Geek, Frappe, and this one is Anastasia Beverly Hills. These are all ColourPop foiled, these are all ColourPop's shimmers. This one is, what is this one? This one is Lele Posh. So yeah, I have quite a bit of single shadows. So let's just go ahead and swatch for you guys. I think I'm going to do the foiled shadows first because those are more fun, and I think you guys would probably want to see those more. But they were really good. They were nice eyeshadows. I'm just going to move these over just so we have all the ColourPop, the Makeup Geek ones together. This one, I believe, is Blanc type, and this one is ColourPop. I think these are all MAC. Yeah, those are all MAC. So we're just going to put, yeah, these are all Makeup Geek. Probably going to have to move all of these up and keep the ColourPop ones together. That's what I should have done anyway, because I want to show you guys all of these. Yeah, she has duochromes and she had foiled shadows. It's funny that people didn't even know that. Shows how much people were checking, which really they weren't checking for Makeup Geek anymore. So I'm going to put this one up here. So those 2 rows are Makeup Geek, and so is this one and this one. I don't want to ruin my nails. I literally just got my nails done. So I'm going to put these ones here. Okay. These all should fit in here. All right, cool. So it's basically just these two that aren't, which I'm probably just going to slip them in here for now, and then we'll fix them up later. This is mostly just color pop in here right now. Okay, so let's do Makeup Geek. So we're going to do these foiled shades. So is there any specific one that you would like me to start with, or should I'm going to swatch all of them anyway, so I was just going to go down the rows. So let's just do that. They are pretty dusty and old at this point. Hi, it's cute. But we're gonna lift my arm. I don't know if I'm just gonna swatch them here. I'm just gonna swatch them here. Okay, so my most used shade was the shade Starry Eyed. So this one is Starry Eyed right here. So we're just gonna start with that one. I'm not gonna take each one out. I just kind of forgot the name. So this one is Starry Eyed, and they are really, really beautiful. So that one is Starry Eyed, and this was like my most used inner corner highlight for like a really long time. Then the next one is called Whimsical. Wow, these are starting to get really crumbly because they're older now, but they still hold their pigment. And that one's a really beautiful, like frosty pink. So these were like my two most used foiled shadows from Makeup Geek because I used them constantly either on the lid or on the inner corners. But these were like my two go-to inner corner highlights. And I have to say, Makeup Geek foiled shadows on the inner corners is like some of the best I've used because they're so metallic and so foiled on the inner corners. So, okay. Then next we have, I believe this one is called Magic Act. And this one was one of my favorite gold shades for a really long time. And that one is Magic Act. It's such a beautiful gold shade. They just reflect so beautifully still, and they're still very smooth. And they did have one of the best formulas at the time. But the problem with the foiled shadows is that they were an oil-based shadow, so they were very prone to creasing. And that was kind of the issue with these shades, but they were highly foiled and metallic. So that's why I had very high expectations for the duochromes, and they were not as good as the foiled shadows. So this one is in the spotlight, and this one has more of a peachy toned undertone than Starry Eyed. Starry Eyed is more of like a champagne pink. In the spotlight is more of like a peachy foiled shimmer. So that one is in the spotlight. That was also one of my favorites. I used that constantly. Then the next one I believe is called Grandstand, and this one is a really beautiful like bronzy shade. And that one is right here. You can tell that that one is much deeper than the other ones. That one was one of my favorite bronze shades for a while too. Like when I tell you I used the heck out of these, I used the heck out of them. And now like I barely grab for single shadows anymore because I have so many palettes at this point. And then the next one is like a really, look at that one. That one is one of my favorites. It's this beautiful copper color. It almost looks like a straight up penny color. And this one is called Flamethrower. So it's like an orangey copper shade. Really, really beautiful. Then the next one is this really pretty, like goldeny mustardy color. I swear, these are still holding their pigment. They're pretty good. So that one is that yellowish gold, almost like a chocolate gelt kind of foiled color. Really gorgeous. And I believe this one is called Untamed. Oof, let me not get eyeshadow everywhere. So that one's a really beautiful, like coppery, yellowy gold. Again, can you guys hear me? So those are a few of those shades. So that is the first row. I kind of went out of order a little bit, but that is the first row of foiled shadows. Okay, then the next one is a very yellow-based shimmer, and this one is called Fortune Teller. And this one is also a beautiful gold. It's much more yellow than the last one that I swatched. Yes, these were older, and they promoted these when Jaclyn Hill and Manny Mua and Kathleen Lights, they talked these up so much. Jaclyn Hill raved about these foiled shadows, and she was like, "You need them. I use them all the time." And then Morphe took over everything, and just Makeup Geek could not really compete with that. So this one is Fortune Teller, and that one is much more yellow than Untamed. Then the next one is a much darker color. This is like a really dark burgundy red shimmer. This one's also gorgeous. I believe this one is called Showdown, if I'm not mistaken. This one is not as foiled because it's a little bit darker, because those ones are much harder to make a little bit more foiled. I honestly probably have more shades like this that are way more foiled than this one. It's not called Showdown, it's called Showtime. So I was really, really close. So that is Showdown or Showtime. Showtime. Then the next one is a very unique color. It's a very cool toned brown shimmer. Really, really pretty. So that one is the next one. And that one is called Mesmerized. So that is very pretty too. I forgot to put in my live title Swatch Fest as well, but it's okay. I'll just edit it when I'm done. So that one is, I totally forgot the name of it already. Mesmerized. It's a really pretty, like silvery, cool tone brown color. It's really, really pretty. Okay, then the next one is where we're getting into some fun colors. I used the heck out of these. Whenever I needed a green, these were like the 3 that I went for all the time. So the next one is called Charmed, and this is more of like a silvery based green. Oh, it's so pretty. So pretty. So that one is Charmed. I haven't swatched these in so long. So long. And then this next green, I believe, is called Fantasy, because this was one of my go-to favorite greens. It's like more of like a springy colored frosty green, as opposed to the Charmed one, which is more gray silver based. This green one is more of like a springtime green color. And that's also really, really pretty. Oh, so pretty. Okay, and then the next one is a darker green, which I believe was called Jester. This one is almost the exact same as one of the duochromes that I'm going to show you. Oh, I kind of swatched it down here, but that's okay. That one is Jester, and that's a really beautiful, like more olivey toned green. I just wanted to swatch these for you guys, just in case if you might be interested in trying Makeup Geek. This will probably be your last chance, because these are on sale right now. But even with the sale with the foiled shadows, they're still $8.49, which is kind of expensive still. So I guess she was trying to sell them for at least like $12. Then this next one, I never really truly got to use too much, because I ordered this one 3 times, and for some reason, every time I ordered the foiled shadows, they were really well packaged, but this was the only one I ever had a problem with receiving, and it's called Houdini, and unfortunately, it was the only one that came damaged every time I tried to order it. So this one is Houdini. Well, I only ordered it once. It's like a darker green, but then I also have a duochrome that's very similar to this color too, and I ended up using that one a ton more than this one, because I could never really get it to show up that great, but it's like a green with like silver glitters in it. It's really, really pretty still. So that one is called Houdini, and I ordered it once and it came broken, and that was when I ordered, like, the second half of foiled shadows because I think I had ordered, like, 8 the first time around. Yeah, it's expensive. Like, I was looking at the square pan ones yesterday, and I was just curious to see how much they're listed at now with the 40% off. Full price, it would have been like $200. Yeah, the quad palettes are expensive too. Like, why are you gonna go for a $45, $50 quad when, like, most quads these days, if it's not like Charlotte Tilbury or Tom Ford or Dior, which is ridiculous how expensive they are, they're like maybe $20 max, not like 30 or 40 bucks. Okay, and then the next shade was one of my favorite silvers for a really long time. And this is like a very beautiful white-based silver. Do I have any more room to swatch? I'm going to swatch it down here. These still swatch amazingly. Better than some of my newer shadows. So that one is the silver right there. And that one is called High Wire. It's a really beautiful silver. Yeah. Yeah. So, but the full price for those square panned full palettes were like $200. I'm like, no one's going to be paying that. You can't compete with other brands' prices or other brands with doing like more interesting eyeshadows if you're going to charge $200 for a bunch of mattes. That is super expensive. Okay, then we're going to do, so we just did the first 2 rows here, this row and this row. Now we're going to go down this one. I started with high wire, so now we're going to go into the purples. And there's like 3 different variations of purple shades. I still use this shade if I want like a lavender inner corner. And I'll tell you guys the name in a second. It's called Daydreamer, and it's a really beautiful lavender shimmer shade. Yeah. Like, why would you pay when you like, and this is your thing that Tina, the fancy face touched her video. If you guys want to see a full reaction video and pretty much the history and downfall of me out her video, she inspired me to do this video, honestly, or this live stream. This one is getting a lot of hard pan. It's not really lasting that well anymore. Divina, I'm not sure how much it would be to fill a whole palette. Cindy Grace is $5 a pop, I believe, as well. It's pretty affordable still. So this purple is called Masquerade, and it's not as pigmented as some of the other high shine shimmers. Also, it is a purple, so purples are pretty hard to formulate. And then the last purple shade is all, and this one is not swatching as well either, because again, it's getting pretty hard pressed at this point, and this one's more of like a cool toned purpley bluish color. So it's not really that pigmented. And this one is called Caitlin Rose. And the reason why I got this one is because she spells her name the exact same as me. This girl unfortunately was very sick, and I thought it was so sweet that Marlena dedicated an eyeshadow to her. And I love that her name is spelt the same as me. So that's why I knew I had to get it. It's really, really pretty. But that one was never really as foiled or pigmented as some of the other shades. This one was my favorite turquoise blue for so long. I don't think I really have too many turquoise blues in my collection. So this one is gorgeous. And this one is called Pegasus. And that one is Pegasus right here. It's a really beautiful, super high shine turquoisey shimmer. Yeah, it's pretty. It's just not really that pigmented. It shows up more reflective on camera, but in person, it's really not that pigmented. Okay. Then the next one is a really pretty royal blue shimmer. I'm going to swatch that down here. And that one is like a royal blue color. Again, not as foiled as the other ones because they are, you know, deeper shimmer shades. So this one is called Center Stage. And that one was never really that. I mean, I believed that that one was a little bit more foiled than Caitlin Rose. But those two darker ones I never really used as much as the other ones because they were not as foiled as some of the other shades. Okay, so those were all her original foiled shadows that she had first come out with. Those were all of the shades that she had. And then she had started releasing newer shades. And I actually, those were the last 3 shades I picked up of the foiled collection were these 3 shades that I'm going to show you guys. I did not collect the full new collection of foiled shadows. I was like, I definitely don't need any more. I was like, it's just way too many at this point. So this one is called Nostalgic. And oh my god, this palette is such a mess. These shades are old, like a few years old at this point. And this one is Nostalgic. And this one, again, was similar to Whimsical. It's a very pretty, like, icy pink shade. Really, really pretty. I would use that one a lot on the inner corners. And then the next one, of course, is another gold. This one is more of like a bronzy gold. It's not similar, really that similar. I would say Untamed is the most similar shade, but Untamed is more yellowy based than Legend. And this one's like more like a straight up gold. Like basically like a copper penny color. So that one is Legend. And then the last foiled shadow that I ever got, because then I just stopped purchasing them, was like this reddish color as well, but this one is kind of getting hard pan as well. And this one, again, was not as foiled as the other ones. I mean, it still swatches pretty well. So that one is that red shade. And that one is called Curtain Call. It's funny how that was the last one that I got because Curtain Call is usually happens at the end of a show. So that one is Curtain Call. So those are the rest of the foiled shadows. Really, really pretty. I'm just going to show you like this because sometimes when I go like this, it like kind of like constricts my hand a little bit. So I'm just going to show you guys like this. Really, really pretty. So those are all of my foiled shadows from Makeup Geek. Most of these are still available. Some of them are sold out actually. So that is all of my foiled shadows. So now we are going to go into the into the Duochrome shades, and I'm going to show you why these were disappointing. So I was really, really excited for when these came out because I was like, ooh, like, you know, she's releasing some different stuff. And they were honestly some of the first to release Duochrome Shadows. So they start with this shade right here and go down to here, and then the rest of them are all down here. So the reason why they were a little bit disappointing is because the flip wasn't really that like they were pigmented, but the flip wasn't really that shifty. So this is the first shade, and this one I believe is called no, it's called Phantom. No, it's called Rockstar. Yes, Rockstar. So these first 2 shades are very, very light, and they just don't really have too much of a shift to them. I mean, it's pigmented, but when you swatch it, do you see it's not really that shifty? And this one was supposed to shift from like a gray to a pink. And even in person, it's not really that metallic or shifty at all. It's kind of just super flat. So that's the first shade. And then the next shade is called Phantom. And again, that's really chalky and powdery. It doesn't really have a duochrome finish to it, but that one was definitely more of a shift than the first one, but it's still not really shifting that much. It's like just a straight up light lavender lilac purple shimmer. It's not really shifting. This next one I really, really liked, but again, it wasn't really shifting. They were just basically very pigmented shimmer shades. So that one I believe is called Voltage, and that one's really pretty. That one I definitely used a ton. It's like a yellowy gold color. It's really pretty, but again, they just didn't really shift the way that she claimed that they were going to shift. And that's why they were a little bit disappointing. I was so excited for them. I was like, ooh, they're so pretty. But even getting them in person didn't really shift. This was really the first one that kind of had more of a shift to it. And this one, you can actually see it. So that one is Karma. And that one is kind of like a gold to almost like a yellowy green. So that one you can definitely see it more in. But I don't know, they just weren't very exciting. They just weren't really doing it for me. Oh, what did you have? I was impressed with the stuff, but like after a while, and I still think her matte shades are really good. But these are starting to get old. I might get rid of them soon. So this next one is called I'm Peachless. That one was pretty hard to swatch. It doesn't really have too much pigment anymore. But this one's like a peachy to almost green shift. It's pretty, but again, it's not really that exciting. Is this one called I'm Peachless? I can't remember now. Yes. Okay. And then the next one, I believe, is called Mai Tai. These are so dry. So dry. And crumbly. Yeah, these are getting old. So that one is Mai Tai. And that one kind of shifts like orangey to almost kind of like a light pinky purple. It was pretty. And again, I used these a ton, but they just don't really do it for me anymore. I don't know if I'm going to swatch the mattes. I don't know if you guys really need to see the mattes. It's not like they're that special. I'll probably just swatch some of my favorite mattes for you guys because I didn't want to be on longer than like an hour and a half. Not even an hour and a half, probably another like 20 minutes. So this one is like a purple lilac-y shade, and this one is called Blacklight. And this one is pretty. It's like a purple with like a blue shift to it. So those are pretty. And I'm going to talk about the blushes and the highlighters. I liked the blushes, but the highlighters were kind of disappointing to me, especially the Duochrome highlighters. Those were also just as disappointing as the Duochrome Shadows. And they were expensive, but I ended up purchasing, so that one is Blacklight. I purchased the Duochrome Shadows all in a bundle because it was actually more affordable to do that, to purchase them all in a bundle than to get them individually. I think it was like $60 for 12 shades. So I think you were saving like a few bucks buying the bundle. So this next one I believe is called Ritzy. Yes, it is. My memory serves me well. The rest of these, though, I think I only remember one of the shade names. I don't remember the rest. This one is called Ritzy, and it was supposed to be like a brown to like a gold green. But again, just not that impressive. So it wasn't very good. And then the next one is like this silvery color with, again, kind of like a blue base to it. But it doesn't really do anything. You see how they don't really do much? They have a very flat shift to them, and they don't really have a shift. And that one is called Havoc. So I really love the shade names as well. But again, it's very flat, and they're not really reflecting too much at all in person. Yeah, I really like the blushes. They definitely have a blush formula I prefer. So this one is the green. And this one didn't really shift at all. It was just like a green shimmer. So again, it's supposed to be like a gold to green and doesn't really shift at all. And this one is called Typhoon. And that one was definitely one of my most used ones. But I feel like just Jester was way more interesting. I'm just going to swatch those three. This one is Jester and Charmed, and this one is... Oh my god, I forgot the name already. I just said it. This one's the Duochrome Shade. I just think that the foiled shadows are way prettier than this one. So, don't really like that one either. Okay, and then we have two more. Oh, I remember the names of these two. So we have Secret Garden and Steampunk. Steampunk is a really pretty one. But again, compared to shadows today, they can't really compete anymore. So we're just going to swatch those two together so we can finish swatching the shimmer. So that one is Secret Garden and that one is Steampunk. Ooh, Secret Garden is a little bit harsh to swatch now because, again, it's pretty old. So that one is Secret Garden, and again, it doesn't really shift at all. It's supposed to be like a green to purple, I think. Doesn't do anything. And then Steampunk is this one, which is kind of like a brownish to like red, orangey shade. But you see, they're just, are you guys like getting any shift from these? Do you think that these are pretty? Or do you think you could probably get better eyeshadows on the market? Like Divina or Cleona, or I know Cleona is super expensive, but they're really expensive for a reason because they're like multi-chrome shadows and everybody says they're like the best multi-chromes you can get. So unfortunately, I don't think she even has these available anymore. I think it's only the foiled shadows, and because these were limited edition, I believe. But I just wanted to swatch them because I still own them. I just wanted to show you what they look like. So they're pretty, but again, I think everybody agrees that the foiled shadows were better. I think the foiled shadows were way better, but it was always that transfer that people weren't really feeling. So that is my entire foiled shadow and duochrome collection from Makeup Geek. So those are the Makeup Geek shades. Okay, and then I believe there's no Makeup Geek in this right now. So we can put this over here. Yeah, exactly. And they're more affordable too. They're still like $5 to $7. I think their single shadows are still $5 a pop. So I would rather go with ColourPop too, obviously. Okay, and then in here are a lot of my most used shades from Makeup Geek. So most of my matte collection of Makeup Geek shadows are these first two rows here. And then I do have two shimmer shades in here, which is Shimma Shimma and Rapunzel. These are gorgeous. Some of the best shimmers I ever used were these two because they're super buttery and pigmented. And then the matte shades I thought were really easily blendable, but honestly, ColourPop pretty much duped their formula like 100%. And they blended out just as good as Makeup Geek, and that's why I kind of stopped buying from Makeup Geek. And also because ColourPop was releasing products left and right that they just couldn't keep up with. And these aren't really going to swatch as well anymore, but I'm going to try. So this one is Beaches and Cream or Peach Smoothie. Beaches and Cream. And this one is Peach Smoothie. Yes. This one is Peach Smoothie. Those ones are not really swatching anymore, but Peach Smoothie is like a really light peach color, and Beaches and Cream was my all-time favorite shimmer shade. I used it to death. Oh, I forgot I have another Makeup Geek palette that I have to show you guys. I think it's right here. Remember this? I have this, and I also have this. So I have the two collab palettes, the two infamous collab palettes from Makeup Geek. So we can swatch a couple of those too. This is when I was a huge fan of Manny, and then he was friends with Jeffree Star and said all those things about Morphe, and I was just like not feeling it. So I just definitely fell off of being a fan of him. Yeah, they're pretty old. And then I have this one and this one. I'm just gonna swatch a few. This one is Bitten and this one is Desert something. I forgot the name. Desert Sands. So Bitten was one of my all-time favorite mattes, but you can tell that the pigment is kind of fading at this point, but it's a really beautiful like burgundy red. And that was also one of Jaclyn Hill's favorite shades, and she basically told everyone and their mother that they needed Bitten from Makeup Geek because she would use it constantly to deepen up her outer corners. And then this one was called Mocha, which was a really cool toned brown, which was one of my most used shades as well to deepen up a lot of looks. But again, these aren't really that thrilling. They're just kind of boring. And then this one, where is Creme Brulee? This one is Frappe, which is also one of my favorites. And then this one, I believe, is Latte. Is it? No, that's Cocoa Bear. That's also one of my favorites. So Frappe and Cocoa Bear, which was also one of the super popular ones. So this one is Frappe and Cocoa Bear. Cocoa Bear is gorgeous. It's a really beautiful, like warm toned matte brown. Yeah, a lot of people stopped buying Jeffree Star, and a lot of people are actually wondering if he might be going out of business too because of his major super sale lately. So I don't think things are going that great for Jeffree Star. I don't know. And then we have two of these shimmers. These are so foiled. They're so pigmented. This one is Shimma, and this one is Rapunzel. Oh, I loved these for a long time. They're not like a super shimmery formula. They're more of like a super pigmented shimmer. They're not more metallic. They're more so of like a satin finish, and they're so beautiful. So that one is Shimma, and that one is Rapunzel. I used the heck out of those. I have pan in both of them. I used to use them all over the lid if I didn't know what lid shade to use, or I used them as an inner corner highlight. So I think those are all the matte shades that I'm going to swatch. I wanted to swatch this one too. This one is called Bake Sale. So this one was actually one of the mattes that was supposed to be in Jaclyn Hill's collab palette with Makeup Geek. Yeah, a lot of people got turned off because of that collection. So that is the majority of oh, I don't like Jackie Aina either. That is the majority of my matte colors from Makeup Geek. So the boring colors, and then I do actually have a few more in this Tarte palette. The one shade I wanted to show you guys, because I have two other ones in here. I have Chickadee and I have Pedal Pusher, which were also used a lot from me. But this was like my favorite matte pink for a long time. And then now I have Say I Do from ColourPop that I use a heck of a lot more than this one. This one's getting pretty dried out too, but it was a really, really beautiful, like cool toned pink. It had such a beautiful undertone to it, and I used the crap out of it because obviously you guys can see it's has pan on it. So those are all of the matte shadows, or most of the matte shadows from Makeup Geek. I believe Cupcake is sold out right now in a couple of these other shades, but those are the matte shades. And then I'll swatch the other ones in just a minute, but I just wanted to talk about why I kind of shifted personally from Makeup Geek to other brands like ColourPop is because, one, they weren't really releasing anything that thrilling, but more so for me, before all the drama started and all the other crap, like, honestly, I could care less about the drama, was that they were raising their prices and becoming more expensive, and they weren't keeping that affordable price tag anymore. They were coming out with duochrome highlighters, they were coming out with highlighting palettes, they were coming out with collabs, and I understand the reason for the price shift, but people were getting pretty annoyed with Makeup Geek when they didn't meet people's expectations when they actually received the products. And also the packaging of some products, especially now on their website. I was looking at their blushes and their highlighters. They're like in plastic packaging. They have like a clear plastic top with like a black pan that's plastic. At least with the duochrome highlighters, I'm going to show it to you. They had like metal packaging, pretty hard plastic packaging, really, really nice. And then the inside had a mirror. And then it also came with the black panned plastic packaging. I know that mirrors add a lot of cost to a product. So I think that's why this was a little bit more expensive. And I like that they, upgraded their packaging and they were doing like this shiny finish kind of packaging for most of their products. So they were already kind of going through a rebrand packaging wise. And they also did this really cool like MG logo, which I really, really liked. But then they had like their collab palettes, like the Katherine Lights highlighting palette and the Manny Mua palette. And this palette was like not even hard plastic packaging. I mean, it's like plastic packaging. And then on the back, it has her face. And then on the inside, there was no mirror, but it came with 3 highlighting shades that I actually really, really liked. I really liked the Makeup Geek highlighting formula. But this was like a $50 highlighting palette. And I understand you're kind of saving more money getting the trio rather than getting this individual highlighter that was like $25. So like but these were 3 regular finished highlighters. They were not duochrome highlighters. She didn't come out with these yet until later. I think like a year later or something. This was like a $50 palette, but this one I used a ton, and these were really, really pretty. So this one, so those are the highlighters. I don't really use this too much anymore, but I did whip it out like a month or 2 ago, and they're still really pretty. But honestly, I have other highlighters that I'm going to reach for and use. Mostly the reason why I got this was because it was Katherine Lights, and people thought that she was going to be doing a eyeshadow palette with Makeup Geek, but that never happened. And then there was a lot of controversy about Manny Mua's palette and also the way that Marlena was working with these influencers, that she apparently didn't have a contract for Jaclyn Hill. And that's why that bake sale shade that I showed you guys ended up being in a single, because she had all of these eyeshadows that were held for Jaclyn Hill's collab. And that collab completely fell through because she ended up doing her Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette. That Morphe was paying her a shitload more money than Makeup Geek was, but also apparently Marlena had never had Jaclyn sign a contract with her, which I don't know how that big a mistake was made, but that's why those eyeshadows could not be put into they weren't ever produced as a collab. She ended up having to make them single shadows and sell them individually. And also, the Manny MUA palette ended up having a couple of leftover shades from Jaclyn Hill's collab. And I actually did not even know that until I watched Tina's video yesterday. But apparently some of the shades in here, I mean, some of them are actually shades that you can get from Makeup Geek. I used this one up completely because that was Beaches and Cream. And after I had used up the individual pan of it, I just ended up using up the one in here. I wasn't going to repurchase it again if I already had it in this palette. But the fact that half of this palette was already shades that you could get from Makeup Geek, there were a couple of limited shades in here, but at least 1, 2, 3, at least 3 shades in here were already available. And, you know, even though the reasons why I don't like Manny MUA, it was a little bit he's sold this palette pretty well. I think this palette did pretty well for Marlena because of Manny's following, but he pushed this palette to death and the justifications of these shades, and he also did not mention Jaclyn Hill. Obviously, he's not going to and say, "Oh yeah, some of these shades were leftover shades from um well, yeah, then that's when she went to ColourPop and did her Zodiac collection with ColourPop. And obviously ColourPop was going to offer a lot more, not just money, but a lot more of a uh opportunity for her to make a full collection and for her to do whatever she really wanted. And that's why ColourPop's collabs work out a lot better, and that's why Morphe collabs do too. Yeah, exactly. So, so this is the Manny MUA palette, and the shades in here that you couldn't get individually from Makeup Geek is this shade called Luna. No, this one's called Artemis. This one is called Luna. This is one of the foiled shadows that you could only get in this palette, and this was the main reason why I bought this. This shadow is gorgeous. I used to use that a ton. And then the middle shade right here is actually exclusive to this palette, which is called Sora, which I'm probably believing that this was probably another shade that was meant for Jaclyn Hill. And then these 2 shades on the bottom were the other 2. Actually, these 3 were all exclusive to this palette. You have Aphrodite, which is like a really beautiful, like chocolatey brown. You have this red matte called Mars, and then you have the pressed version of Insomnia, which was actually a pressed pigment, well, a loose pigment that Manny loved, and he wanted his own version of it in here. But apparently, Tina from the Fancy Face said that this shade was actually a shade that was supposed to be in Jaclyn's collab palette. So I guess, I mean, I know that Manny had also used Insomnia as well. This was also supposed to be a dupe for Max Black Brown. Was it called Black Brown? No, Blue Brown. Blue Brown. It was like a duochrome shade that everybody had and everybody raved about. This one was supposed to be like a dupe for it, I believe. So we're just going to swatch a couple of these. These ones should still swatch pretty well because they're not as old as my pressed foiled ones. So this one is Artemis and this one is Luna. And Artemis is a really pretty shimmer. So that one is Artemis, and then Luna is a foiled shadow. I can see the texture now at this point because it is getting older. So again, it's not swatching as well as it used to. And then let's just swatch the red. Oh my God, that feels so old. Oh my God, it feels so dry. So that one is the Mars shade. Oh my God, that felt so weird. And then this one is Insomnia, which is that shifty. This one was definitely more of a duochrome shade than the duochrome shades that I showed you guys. It's a really beautiful green to purple shift. So let's go over the reasons why Makeup Geek is closing. We're also going to pay homage to Marlena because it is kind of sad. But the I wanted to bring these up again is that this was really the last hurrah that I gave Makeup Geek was these Duochrome highlighters because I was still interested in trying this new stuff that she was coming out with, and they were still pretty good. But this duochrome highlighter wasn't even really that duochrome either. And I have like other brands that actually shift. Even my ColourPop ones that weren't as expensive as these shift really, really nicely. I'm wearing a ColourPop one today. It's super, super intense. But it's not a duochrome one, but this is one of the Super Shock finishes, and I feel like this one's way more pigmented and metallic than this one is. And also, this one doesn't really shift too much. It's supposed to shift to like a yellow to green. And again, she was talking up products that didn't really perform the way that she was claiming that they were. It's not really, I mean, I'm not really going to call it false advertising. I just feel like they were underperforming and not really meeting people's expectations. And then the last things that I was going to show you guys were the blushes. So I actually have a full Z palette of the blushes, and this is what they look like. And I really, really like Makeup Geek's blushes, and this is when I was still interested in the brand because yeah, yeah, definitely. They just really didn't meet my expectations, and they didn't meet a lot of people's expectations. They were like, these are duochrome. Like people were thinking that they weren't really doing what she claimed that they were supposed to do. They're supposed to be a super shifty duochrome, and they really weren't. So these are the blushes that I have. I'm just going to go through the names really quick. So this one is called Infatuation. Then we have Cherish, Bliss, and Spellbound. Then we have Head Over Heels. Oh, I love this one. I believe this one's called Romance. Then we have Heartthrob, and this one I use the most. Love Letter, because it's such a pretty, like, cool tone mauvey pink that I really don't have too many of, and it's a way more like a pinky purple based blush. That is pretty unique in my collection. But Infatuation and Bliss, Infatuation is such an amazing everyday blush for me. You guys know how much I love these nude toned kind of colors. Spellbound is their most popular blush, and it's actually sold out in the individual, like the one that you put in a Z palette, and it's also sold out in the compact. So that one was still a cult favorite, despite that they're closing. So this one is Spellbound, right? Is that one Spellbound? Pretty sure it is. Yes, it is. And this one is Infatuation. Look how pigmented they are. I really liked their blushes for a long time. And I would have to say, out of all the products that I use from Makeup Geek on a daily basis, would be their blushes. I don't really use too much of their other products anymore. I mean, I still grab for some of their products. It's usually going to be an underbrow brow bone highlight or an outer corner shade or an inner corner shade. I'm still grabbing for their eyeshadows if I need something that isn't light enough to put under my brows or on the inner corners, or a dark brown that I need to deepen up a look if they don't have those shades in a palette that I'm using. So I can't say that I don't use them on a daily basis still. But I just don't feel like I need any of these products to replace, and I don't think I need a backup of any of the blushes or um eyeshadows, just because like I feel like I've just outgrown them at this point. So this one is Spellbound, and then this one is Infatuation. Sorry for the kind of pitiful swatch. I was just trying to get it more pigmented, but it's so pretty. And then let's just do Romance. This one is more of like a shimmer finish, but it's so beautiful on the cheeks. Oh my god. They're just a little bit crumbly right now. So that one is Romance. You can't really see it. We're not going to swatch all of them. I just wanted to swatch a couple of them. But their blushes are really pigmented, super smooth, very, very easily, super buttery on the skin, very easy to apply. Definitely a big fan of their blushes. This was probably the best things that they did. So that is my entire Makeup Geek collection. I hope you guys enjoyed that. So let me just wrap up a little bit of my final thoughts about Makeup Geek. So one, I think Makeup Geek would have done probably better if they had a parent company or some type of umbrella company that went and took over and accumulated Makeup Geek. And I think they should have done that when the rebrand happens. Because I think that if they would have been accumulated by a company like, sorry, my mom is trying to get something off of Luna and she's kind of screaming. She's kind of nuts. Sorry. I think she either had a leaf on her or something. I don't know. Or she was trying to get something out of her fur. Watson's so much more chill compared to Luna. So anyway, I think if she had a company like that come in, but I understand if she didn't want that to happen because sometimes when that happens, a parent company changes a lot about the brand that you don't necessarily want to change. For example, formulas like BH getting accumulated by Makeup Revolution, people are a little bit nervous about BH keeping the amazing eyeshadow formula that everybody loves. They know that there's still going to be a super affordable brand because Makeup Revolution is also a super affordable brand. But I think for them to be taken over by Revolution makes sense because Makeup Revolution will be able to have the capacity to help BH Cosmetics reach a much wider audience. I mean, yes, BH was already available in um Ulta's and in on their website. So a lot of people knew about BH, but BH was going that one note route kind of like Makeup Geek. Um but more people like bought BH and were interested in their products than Makeup Geek. No one was really buying Makeup Geek anymore. Um, so I think that's why Marlena didn't necessarily want to do that. I think that opportunity was probably available to her at some point, but she probably said no because she just had a feeling that it was probably going to change too much about the brand, and I respect that. But it wasn't really doing anything for her to reach a wider audience or get her products to take off or to get people interested in her products. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the alienation um that she alienated certain influencers that had huge audiences. That was mostly the reason why Makeup Geek had become a bigger brand. Was it was basically an influencer brand because yes, it was started by an influencer. Marlena Stell was one of the OGs of YouTube. She was around when Temptalia started. And then she made this video talking about all the drama about why influencers weren't promoting her brand anymore. Yeah, exactly. And people were still checking for BH Cosmetics, but they just became so one note, just releasing eyeshadow palettes and nothing else in their collections, that they were just getting boring. And the reason why I bring up ColourPop so much is because ColourPop, despite people not liking ColourPop or, hating ColourPop, you can't say that they are extremely savvy business-wise. They know exactly what they're doing. And because I keep on coming back to them, because they keep on releasing products that I am interested in. And like I said, back in, I believe, 2019 or 2020, they came out with Fourth Ray Beauty. That was huge for them to stay in business, especially during COVID. And that's why ColourPop was able to sustain and survive, sorry, um, was because of their skincare, and also because they had a bunch of hero products that people would constantly go back and purchase, like their brow gel, their brow products, their mascaras, their eyeliners. People were constantly purchasing their cream gel liners. People love those liners. I'm not the biggest fan of their cream gel liners, but a lot of people collect those bundles, and they come out with bundles during the holidays or during certain times of the year where they put them on incredible sales. Like, you can get the eyeliner bundle for like $15-20, as opposed to buying one Makeup Geek eyeliner that costed like $10. It was just not sustainable. So back to ColourPop, when they came out with Fourth Ray Beauty, that was a extremely smart business move for them to start a skincare line, because it's affordable skincare. Skincare sales skyrocketed after COVID started because people were not purchasing makeup anymore, because people weren't even leaving the house. So, but people were still taking care of their skin. They were still buying face wash, and they said 2020 was the biggest year for, that was the number one product in 2020 for beauty, was face wash, affordable face wash, like CeraVe's face wash, stuff like that. And then ColourPop had to shut down for a few months. But after that, I'm pretty sure I was seeing their Fourth Ray Beauty stuff sell out quite a bit. And I know people were saying that ColourPop doesn't keep things around for a long time, but usually the stuff that they keep around for a long time isn't necessarily restocked that often. It usually is for the first few months that is out, but they still have collab products that they had from back when the Disney collections were first coming out, like the Midnight Masquerade or the Frozen ones. Those were available for like 2+ years. So it's not like they go in and out and get rid of their products that fast. I know people say that they're the fast fashion of makeup, and yes, they are. But that business model is keeping people interested in your brand, because let's get real, a brand cannot survive without releasing something new at least once a month. Maybe maybe most brands like ColourPop aren't releasing products and collections left and right, but they are still releasing something new to keep people interested, and Makeup Geek was not doing that. And also, they were saying that the reason why they could not sustain or stay in business was mostly due to COVID. And of course, I believe that that was a huge hit on not just Makeup Geek, but on every single makeup brand and skincare brand, or any brand in general, was impacted by COVID. So, she basically claims in her uh video that she tells everyone that the brand is closing down, it was because of COVID, and they could not sustain packaging or could not release products because they could not get um the resources that they needed. They also couldn't restock products. I think it's just because they weren't making any money before COVID, because again, people weren't really checking for them because of that video that she made alienating um her audience, but not just her audience. She was alienating Jaclyn Hill's audience. She was alienating Manny MUA's. She was alienating Kathleen Light's. A lot of people she called out in this video, saying my truth, where she was addressing a lot of drama that was going on back then. I forgot exactly why she felt like she had to say something, but mostly the reason why she made this video was to say that most influencers were demanding too much money for sponsored videos and for affiliate codes in general for her to keep up and pay these influencers to promote her brand. Now, one, you don't always need a sponsored video to promote your brand. You need to send out PR because this is what also Tina from the Fancy Face touched on in her video, is that basically these makeup influencers like Jaclyn Hill, Manny Mua, and James Charles, she also alienated James Charles' massive audience. And again, I hate James Charles, but James Charles has over 20 million subscribers. You're going to alienate 20 million people? Like, Marlena, you're an OG influencer, you should know how YouTube works. Once you say something about the king of YouTube, basically, in the makeup industry, you're gonna take a huge hit and people are gonna cancel you. They are not gonna be canceling James Charles and Jaclyn and Manny because they have a way bigger following than you. So she made that video and she was basically blaming the influencers that they were demanding too much money to sustain her brand or her brand being talked about anymore. And it was really more so a big hit on Jaclyn Hill's part. She definitely influenced a lot of people to stay interested in Makeup Geek because let's get real, Jaclyn Hill can sell a paper bag. She is extremely good at selling products. That's why people are so interested in her still. But she stopped promoting Makeup Geek after Morphe was offering a bigger payout for collabs and for affiliate codes. And after Makeup Geek was left out in the dust by her, you could not watch a Jaclyn Hill video without her saying Morphe, 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 Morphe. So she just could not keep up with other new indie brands. She wasn't really releasing anything interesting or new or innovative. And makeup is like this. The trends come and go. It is just like fashion. If you're not releasing something that's new and interesting, and people always say that mostly everything has been done in makeup, but if you're not coming out with like a maybe a pressed pigment kind of mixing medium or like a new different type of eyeshadow or something interesting and fun or lip glosses, she could have expanded her lip range. Did you know that Marlena used to make lipsticks? She had a cream lipstick, she had like a liquid lipstick, and then she had like this liquid lipstick hybrid. It wasn't really too matte. It was kind of similar to like the ColourPop Velvet Pillow lipsticks, like the liquid lipsticks that she had. That they had the Luxe liquid lipsticks. They were similar to those. And nobody knew about them or really talked about them. I think after that, no one was really checking for Makeup Geek. And plus, those lipsticks were like $20 a pop for all 3 different finishes. So, to sum this all up, I'm surprised that Makeup Geek lasted this long, but I don't think all of her troubles came from just COVID. There was a lot of controversy, and again, I understand if she didn't want to be taken on by a parent company, but I feel like if she wanted to survive, unfortunately, that's probably what should have happened. But she didn't announce bankruptcy or auction off her assets of the company and products like BH did. Maybe because she just doesn't want to do it anymore. So she just figured I'm sure she was making a lot more. I mean, a lot less in a calendar year than BH was, because BH had posted what their profit was every year since 2019. And obviously they took a plunge because of COVID as well. but it basically went down almost $5 to $10 million per year after 2019. She had good ideas for products, but she didn't care to release, but instead she kept on blaming a factory for that. But she's not with them anymore. Yeah, exactly. I don't remember which factory she used to produce their products. I think she just doesn't want to fool with it anymore. Yeah, it's very expensive to keep up. I understand. But I think that just the money was not coming in anymore for her to release anything new and innovative and for her to launch a new collection. And again, she did take a huge hit because of COVID. So that's basically most of my thoughts. I basically stopped buying from the brand because her prices just started becoming more expensive. She always claimed that she was affordable, but she really was not. And when the rebrand happened, a lot of people were very disappointed in what the rebrand actually was. It really honestly was not a rebrand. There was nothing that was really repackaged. Like I said, it was just a bunch of her singles that she originally had put in square pans rather than round pans. So that basically just started the downfall of her brand. Unfortunately, it is sad because I can't say that I didn't start falling in love with makeup more because of Marlene Estelle. And I can't not pay tribute to her to starting influencer brands in general because she was one of the first, if not the first, influencer to start a makeup brand because of YouTube. And Jacqueline and Manny and Kathleen and Laura Lee and James Charles, they can't really not thank Marlena for pioneering and starting influencer trends and brands in general. She made a huge impact on that. We have Jaclyn Hill Cosmetics, we have Manny MUA Lunar Beauty, we have Laura Lee Cosmetics, we have James Charles doing a bunch of collabs. I don't think he's going to come out with a line. Who knows? He a money hungry kid. Oh, God, I can't stand him. And then what was the other one that I said? Kathleen Lights. She started KL Polish. She also might start a brand at some point, and also Desi Perkins. Just there's so many influencer brands at this point. Which one? Lunar Beauty. And then we have Patrick Starr's One Size brand. So she was never really too much of, I can't say like she wasn't interesting enough, but like with Patrick Starr, he is the face of his brand, but he offers something different and innovative to the makeup industry, which I don't think his line is really that great. I think I'm not sure. Yeah, it was an adorable name. I loved it. It was just fun. Like it was kind of saying like makeup is more than just like putting on pretty colors. There's a big, chemistry and science that comes to formulating makeup. And I think that she tried to make that cool, which was awesome. Um, but it just didn't work after a while. And again, I think that she alienated way too many audiences. And then with One Size by Patrick Starr, I think that I have to go in a couple of minutes, but I think his brand, yeah, we do. We fangirl over it. We love it. And that's what makes our community just like any other community, like comic books and movies and video games and all that stuff. It's, you got to have fans in order for your product to sell and for people to talk about it still. And she just kind of was sitting on a high horse for a long time. And it's just like, Marlena, like, you're not really reaching that many people anymore. You got to do something fun to keep people interested. But with One Size, I think Patrick Starr has a lot of limitations with his brand. I don't know who he's owned by, but it's just very, very mainstream and very basic. But I understand that's what reaches, more of an audience, and especially in Sephora's. I think he probably has a lot more limitations than, let's say, like Fenty Beauty or like Urban Decay, like brands like that. But I think I am done. I think that sums up all of my thoughts. But basically, I stopped buying from them because their prices were just getting too expensive for me. And then once ColourPop came out, I was just like, Makeup Geek, who? Because they were super affordable, and she just couldn't compete with the prices of Morphe and ColourPop. So I think that's mostly all of my thoughts summed up. I don't think I left anything out. I think that's mostly what I wanted to say. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this live. Thank you, Erica, Justice, and Sandra for being here. I really do appreciate it. Um, yeah, I heard good things. I actually just saw Angelica Nyquist try out that one size foundation. It's kind of more of like a tinted, it's not like a skin tint, but it's not like a full coverage foundation. It's kind of in the middle. And she said that she really liked it. So yeah, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your comments below on what your thoughts are about Makeup Geek. Are you surprised that they made it this far? Because I'm pretty surprised too. I think she just wanted to hold on to her baby and maybe see if it could go anywhere else. But I can't lie and say that I did not see this coming. I'm actually surprised that it didn't happen earlier. So yeah, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.